Hello everyone and welcome back. We are going to revisit something from about 4 months ago. You see, a while back there was this random thread that popped up on the Reddit talking about a leak that happened in an in-person event in Shanghai, China. Most of the community kinda brushed it aside as, yeah, this is bait, but I don't know. We don't know what type of meeting this was. It's likely some sort of investor meeting, and a few things from this have come true already, so I guess we should talk about this a little bit more in detail now. So this leak was pretty weird because it happened before the confirmation, although there was speculation that Norsca, High Elves, and Slaanesh were going to be the next DLC. I think most people were already onto that, as there was kind of speculation prior to this too. So we're going to count that as just very good guess or whatever, right? However, Sea Lord Aisling confirmed, Sail the Faithless confirmed. Sail, at least for me, wasn't a character that I was expecting, because he's not a Norscan, he is a Kurgan. But considering that Creative Assembly get cultures wrong all the time, and I mean, if you go back to Rome 1, it's still using Egyptians with Bronze Age weapons, even though it's like a fair while away from that point of the setting. But there's been one more thing that's already been confirmed, which was incredibly left field, and I wasn't really expecting. The mysterious Sea Elemental. So we know that we've got two Sea Elemental units now, the big one and the Oceanids. Oceanids were actually mentioned in the 6th edition Storm of Chaos unit roster for the Lothan Sea Patrol, but it was still something that never really had a model, only recently had representation thanks to Cubicle 7 with their fantastic artwork. They were always in Warhammer Fantasy though, but I don't think anyone was really expecting that, right? So it makes me think back to this leak and how much of it could end up being true, considering that already a fair chunk is already there. Further to that, which I completely forgot this was in this original quote-unquote leak, there's a mention of a Dreadmore here for Norsca, of all things, and I've just clocked, right? There was a Dreadmore in the interview. The developer interview, there was a Dreadmore being moved around every now and then, unpainted, built up, a very old school resin model. Well, not that old, but you know what I mean. Originally I thought, well, maybe they were using that style of model as a reference for the Sea Elemental, because it's not going to have any legs and so on. But I could see Creative Assembly just using the Dreadmore, which would be unfortunate, not because like Koresh or anything, it's more the fact that there are other monsters closer to the geographic region of the Northern Chaos Wastes and also the Norscan Peninsula, where it just makes a lot more sense. The Dreadmore itself has normally been found around the hinterlands, down south. There could be some up north, but it just doesn't feel great. Unless it's using the same animations or very basic animations as the Sea Elemental, which is something Creative Assembly will be doing. There is already a bit of a look there with Aisling having the face animations of the Black Ark Corsairs, and the little bit that they did show of the Mist Mages. I did see some modders saying it's like, oh, those are Teclis's animations. It's a bit of reusing. I would have preferred the Basilisk, in all honesty. I think the Basilisk would have been cooler. Obviously this doesn't confirm anything, but it's just in case. It's just a weird option. Alright, now we have to talk about some stuff that hasn't been confirmed yet. So in this leak they mentioned Caradrian of the Flame as a legendary hero possibly, and that makes sense. He's a missing character and he's kind of important to the end times. They are building up to the end times. Sea Helm as a lord, who knows? Right now we've got the Mistcaller and that's supposed to be hero. It's likely we could get the Stormweaver instead, and remember, some stuff has changed, so I'm not saying that this leak is correct. We will never really know. It could just been a fantastically good guess. But if they're going to do a spellcaster, they'll likely do that, unless the Archmage is just going to have access to that new lore of magic also. The Merworm hasn't been confirmed yet. Now, they have confirmed 4 units. Normally DLCs have 4, 5, sometimes 6 units, so it's still entirely possible to get the Merworm up and running. And I feel like, well, if they're going to be doing the Sea Patrol, which they are, they might as well do the Merworm, especially since some basic art assets have already existed. In terms of Norsca, right, so we've had Sail confirmed for a while, and not really a lot has been confirmed for Norsca. No legendary hero just yet, but Bjorg Bearstruck does make a lot of sense. He's very popular, he's a Dog of War character, so people know him quite a lot. This section says that the Dogs of War is likely being killed. I don't think so. I think that if they were going to do Dogs of War, and I still think that they're going to do Dogs of War, they'd do someone else as a legendary hero. Actually, I think Lucrezia Belladonna had the listing inside in the game files as a hero rather than a lord. The Cursed Etin hasn't been confirmed yet, but that is a Norskin unit. It is an actual Norskin unit, so I could see that happening, and they could easily do 2 variants there too, the melee one and the spellcaster one. So I'd say keep that kind of open-minded. Now the last section, Slaanesh there. So this one's a bit odd, because they say it's Praeton, right? We've already had a few units confirmed for Slaanesh. We've had the confirmation of 2 Dark Elf units, additional hand weapons and a crossbow, which, I mean, they're kind of cool. Well, we're going to have to wait and see, and hopefully Morathi can use them. We've had the confirmation of the Pleasure Seekers, and we've had the confirmation of the Champions of Slaanesh. They are a monstrous infantry unit, not a single entity. I'm not sure why people keep thinking that they're a single entity. But that does mean that we have a slot open. It's not going to be the Praetons. It's not. They're going to have to do the Slangors because consistency. I'm a little disappointed here because that does mean likely no boob snakes, and yeah, I wanted Mortal Knights on the Pleasure Seekers because I think that that's kind of cool. Who knows if characters can use that too? I am getting a little bit concerned about that, not going to lie. And yeah, I mean, Slangors, what's supposed to be their big entity then? Unless this faction is going to get 6 units. I was expecting something like a gigantic Chaos Spawn and stuff. So it's pretty much the Slangor that we're waiting for, unless the 2 elves count as 1 slot. But in most cases, they count as 2 individual unit slots, because 2 different animation sets and so on. And looking towards the future in the roadmap section, this is kind of believable. Only 1 to 2 DLCs left between the Slaanesh and the End Times DLC. It's not saying that the End Times DLC is last, by the way. Like, that's the way I see it. I don't think that the End Times is going to be last. It's just going to be that big content pack, but we'll get to that in a little bit section. We do know that they are planning smaller DLCs now, so it looks like this was planned out for a while. This was confirmed a small while ago with Neferata. They didn't specifically name her, but, you know, it's close to your blood. It's Neferata. Like, there's no one else, right? Now that we know that smaller DLCs is possible, I kind of believe the stuff about Moonclaw. DLC for Moonclaw is entirely possible. Same thing with the possibility of a Tomb King DLC. There is stuff missing for both. It wouldn't be a larger DLC pack. It would just be, like, by itself. Think about the most recent DLCs. Thrones, Omens, even Shadows of Change. They're all actually 3 individual packs bundled together. So it's just singular. I could see that happening. The Moonclaw one could be entirely like possible. And that's where I'd expect the Praeton. That's why I get a little bit annoyed. Because it's like, well, yeah, it's a Beastman unit. It's not a Slaanesh unit. When it comes to like stuff like the Monkey King, could expect that as a mini race pack. But I could also expect that in this End Times situation where it's mentioned down there, but we'll go into that section a little bit later. Tomb Kings, again, there is a possibility for another Tomb King Lord, just to kind of add to it, not counting Nagash, and get a few units that are missing. The Big Beetle, for example. Hell, maybe if Creative Assembly want to fight with Games Workshop a little bit, maybe the Bone Dragon, that would be kind of cool. It's a weird situation though. I could in fact see a lot of DLCs being made out of the standard small format. We haven't seen what that's going to be yet, but I'm imagining that's going to be the one after Tides of Torment, because I do not believe that we're going to be getting the largest DLC that, this is them saying, by the way, the largest DLC they've ever done, straight after Tides of Torment, which itself has gotten delayed, and has been, 10 months since the last DLC at that point. Again, not shitting on CA here, it's just, it doesn't seem realistic. Unless they were working on the End Times first, and then things kind of went wrong there. It's a weird thing. We will never really know. You know, until Hyenas 2 gets cancelled and there's another round of layoffs. I'm joking. I'm fucking joking. Alright, and now the End Times section. So, right. A lot of people see the End Times as the end of the series. I doubt it, because we've been having End Times content for a while. We've had End Times models implemented since Omens of Destruction, but we've had End Times units being made, like, so these guys are like regiments, special units and stuff like that since Warhammer 2 with Eltharion. So it's not the end. The End Times have been here for a while. They were always gearing up for that because there's a lot of money to be made there. The leak suggests a 5-faction content pack, price higher than normal, which, I mean, is expected. Each of them are split up and so on. And the planned races are Skaven, Thankor, Empire, Midlands, so Boris Dodbringer, Cafe, Nagash, and finally Chaos Glotkin. So, let's talk about this before we continue, right? 5 I expect happening because that sounds like the biggest content pack they've ever done before. See? Just kind of makes sense. Skaven with Thankor makes sense. A lot of stuff that's missing is end time stuff. It's just the stuff like Stormfiends, Vermin Lords, blah 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 blah, and Thankor himself. Empire Midland, again, very central to the end time storyline. The end is basically in Middenheim itself, or right below it, so kind of makes sense. And I think a lot of people would like to Guard and stuff like that, especially since they've been coming back into the tabletop. A lot of people have been enjoying that. Cafe, I find very strange, unless it's either going to be Yin Yin or Li Dao, because the suggestion there apparently is that, the Monkey King is going to be his own faction. So, I don't know, man. I would see the Monkey King coming in there because it's the end and so on. They're not going to do the Dragon Emperor. I've seen some people saying, oh, that could happen. If he's never going to get a model on the tabletop, which Games Workshop has said, he's way too powerful and so on, I very much doubt that he's going to be getting into the game. Also, it just doesn't make sense. Maybe more representation via art with the whole thing of Cafe fucking off in these weird pyramids, same as the Lizardmen did or whatever, but I just don't see anything else there. Nagash is kind of expected. We've all been expecting him. His free rosters are essentially already in game. Well, they're not essentially, they are, because in the lore, not counting the tabletop, so in the lore, he had access to the Vampire Coast, the Vampire Counts, and the Tomb Kings. Obviously, Vampire Coast didn't have an army in 8th edition, so that couldn't happen there. And then Chaos Glotkin, yes, that's what I'm expecting, another Nurgle Lord, because there is a lot of Nurgle end-time stuff still missing. It's the Pox Magoths, the Putrid Blight Kings. Obviously, they would want to do the Glotkin, because he's very, very impressive. And we've all been hearing rumors about the Glotkin for a fair amount of time now. So to be fair, that's what I expect, right? The next section here, CA is also testing some gameplay changes for the map for the final DLC. I don't think this is the final DLC. I think this is bait. I don't know. I very much doubt that they're going to get rid of that, considering that, yes, Total War 40k is going to be announced next year, but I don't expect it coming out until 2027. Now, a lot of people would say, well, that seems a bit far. They're going to announce it, it's going to say 2026, and then they're going to delay it. It's happened before. CA have always kind of delayed a game, essentially. So I see that happening, and they always bite off whether they can chew. If they're delaying DLC, they're going to be delaying a game. But this thing about, the Great Vortex being released and causing all fun to disappear from the map, I can see that happening, but I don't think that's going to work. It's happened technically with the Chaos Realms and so on, but they are separate from the physical map itself, so unless Creative Assembly are going to be redoing the map entirely, and if they're going to be doing that, make it larger, might as well, I just don't see that happening. I think that some things Creative Assembly says they want to do, and then it doesn't happen. They are not the only devs that do this. We've seen it with Bethesda, where they promise the world, and then they give us nothing. It's happened with Skyrim, it's happened with Oblivion. Remember, the whole AI in Oblivion is going to be amazing, they're going to be completely unique, blah, 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 blah. It never happens, right? It could also be just bad communication here. Keep in mind that sometimes people will go in there, because it says, call several leaks regarding future DLC plans, and this is the main section where we've seen these leaks. The 4chan didn't really have a lot, Reddit didn't really have a lot, then there's a lot of just oh yeah, my cousin works at Nintendo. So it could just be that. It could be just bad communication. Or it could just be sending out false leaks so they could catch the leakers. I don't know if CA is smart enough to do that, but it does generally happen. And then lastly, it's there was also a mention of the Avatar of Sigma. Yep, Volton. They wouldn't do an End Times DLC without having Volton. There's so much that they could do with Volton. And despite being one of the biggest Mary Sues in Warhammer Fantasy, even though he was only basically there for just 2 or 3 books, he is kind of liked. I've got all his models. He's cool. He's cool. Really just take everything with a pinch of salt, because while this does sound kind of on the nose, especially for the beginning stuff, it could just be old info. We're going to have to wait and see. Mind you, Creative Assembly in the last blog post did say that they were going to update us with what's changed, and they haven't. So, yeah. I'm just finding it very curious because I really wasn't expecting the mysterious sea element, as they called it, right? And then we ended up getting 2. Seems kind of left field. I expected them to do a little bit more with other things. Still no confirmation of the Merworm is kind of worrying. But yeah, I wanted to talk about it because someone pointed out to me yesterday, and I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, this is right. I went back to my videos and I realized, it's like, yeah, this is kind of spot on now. Very, very strange. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of discussion. I just wanted to talk about this because it just kind of threw me off. I'm just kind of curious as what exactly has changed since they updated us. It just feels like it's stayed the same, maybe just like mechanics instead, which they never confirmed anyway. Who knows? But yeah, have a good one, everyone. I'll see you all again very, very soon.